there's something going on with Donald Trump, and the reporting is saying that the White House is worried about it, and that they're not able to hide it like they used to, because Donald Trump is out there and he is just making these verbal slip-ups that don't make sense. They just don't make sense. And if it were anyone else, if he were your grandpa, you would say, oh, grandpa's starting to slow down. Donald Trump saying that the war in Gaza will have to stop at some point.
Americans who voted for you and not for Biden because you've promised them to end the war in Gaza.
Very honored by that vote, too.
The war is still going on and there's no hostage deal. Do you have any update on that?
Well, I'd like to see the war stop, and I think the war will stop at some point that won't be in the too distant future. Right now we have a problem with hostages. We're trying to get the hostages out. We got quite a few of them out, but it's a long process. It shouldn't be that long. We have a big problem that we've done. I think I'll ask Pete to maybe talk about it for a second, because a lot of people are asking. The Houthis, we've been very tough and very.
Wasn't he supposed to end the war? Wasn't that the whole promise, was we're going to end the war on day one? Isn't that what he said? He said, I could call Bibi tomorrow and he'd end the war. And it's still going on. Same thing with the Ukraine war. He said he was going to lower prices in day one. It's all bullshit. And he also had this verbal slip up where he said, we need open borders.
There can be permanent tariffs, and there can also be negotiations, because there are things that we need beyond tariffs. We need open borders. You know, we almost had a deal with China where we're going to open up China. It was almost done.
Yeah, we need open borders. That's not
because there are things that we need beyond tariffs. We need open borders. You know,
yeah, if that were Joe Biden, we would not hear the end of it. And here's Donald Trump saying that they're in direct talks with Iran. Donald Trump, who can't even speak correctly, is having these really important conversations with foreign adversaries.
Talks with, wait. We're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it. So we're going to see if we can avoid it. But it's getting to be very dangerous territory.
He's literally saying nothing. He just said nothing for 38 seconds. He didn't say a goddamn thing. Everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with. It's going to be a very dangerous territory. What the hell does that mean? He's just saying nonsense. He's saying nonsense. And a reporter then pointed out that Donald Trump's tariffs plan is giving mixed messages. And here is his response to that.
Do you expect any of these deals to be made before April 9th? And secondly, there have been some mixed messages from your administration. You're talking about negotiations, and yet others in your administration are saying that these tariffs are actually permanent. What is the action? Well,
it can both be true. There can be permanent tariffs, and there can also be negotiations, because there are things that we need beyond tariffs. We need open borders. You know, we almost had a deal with China where we're going to open up China. It was almost done. Some of you remember it during my first term, and it was very disappointing. We ended up making a great deal. $50 billion worth of product was sold. $50 billion. You'd like that in Israel. And I made that deal, but it wasn't the deal that I wanted. It was the deal that I wanted was that, plus they were going to open up China so that our companies could go into China and compete with other countries and China for for a large number of people.
He was asked about tariffs. Now we're talking about China.
That I wanted was that, plus they were going to open up China so that our companies could go into China and compete with other countries and China for for a large number of people.
So we could compete for the, large number of people. Oh my gosh. And this is the one that really frightened me. He goes, I said we're going to try to get groceries down, right? An old-fashioned down, but a beautiful term, eggs.
If you look at what's happening, you got to see this today. I said we're going to try and get groceries down, right? An old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term. Eggs. So when I got in, the press went absolutely crazy the first week. They said, eggs have quadrupled in price. I said, I just got here. Tell me about it. And Brooke Rollins and our team did a great job, and eggs are down now 79%, and they're all over the place. And this was a problem that somebody else would have taken a long time to cure. If you look at what...
No, I mean, Joe Biden had that problem, and he fixed it actually quite quickly. And then Donald Trump strangely says that he doesn't want China spending, he doesn't want them spending money on their military.
Surplus with us, like China is a massive surplus that they take and they spend on their military. Well, we don't want that. I don't want them to take $500, $600 billion a year and spend it on their military. I don't want them spending money on their military. And I shouldn't have to spend money. We shouldn't have to spend it either. Because, you know, hopefully, and I said this to President Xi, hopefully it's money that we're never going to use. In other words, because we're not going to use those incredible weapons that we have and that they have. We don't want that. So, surplus.
I mean, it makes me worried because if he's saying he doesn't want it, then it makes me feel like that's actually something he does want. And here he is defending his tariff policy. This is just an insane Oval Office meeting. It's insane.
Maybe, you know, our country was the strongest, believe it or not, from 1870 to 1913. You know why? It was all tariff-based. We had no income tax. Then in 1913, some genius came up with the idea of let's charge the people of our country, not foreign countries that are ripping off our country. And the country was never that kind of wealth. We had so much wealth, we didn't know what to do with our money. We had meetings, maybe, you know, our country.
That's just not true. And actually, the Great Depression happened. We had two economic downturns, and they happened directly after we enacted a tariff policy, which is what's happening right now. And Donald Trump, then, this is just really disturbing and gross, but we have to show it. And he's talking about turning the Gaza Strip into real estate.
For the Times of Israel, the IDF is fighting again in the Gaza Strip. I myself might be called up in a month. Do you think that's the way to pressure Hamas to get to a deal? And do you think blocking humanitarian aid is also an effective pressure?
Well, you know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate. And I think it's something that we would be involved in. But, you know, having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place.
For the Times of Israel.
I'm sorry. I can't. There's just the freedom zone. The freedom zone. He ran on lowering prices and stopping wars. Now he wants to take over Greenland. He wants to take over Canada. He wants to take over the Panama Canal. He wants to take over the Gaza Strip. Every goddamn person who voted for this guy was lied to and was manipulated. And it's just so disturbing. And he's clearly falling apart mentally. Just falling apart.